Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's movie blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well. I am back once again. Yesterday I had some craziness going on with work and I was not able to do a video or a live stream, but I am back once again and we are just jumping right back into the Star Wars news. And so this is actually a article that seems like it might actually be good from Forbes. Interestingly enough, it's not written by Scott Mendelson, which might explain why it's not going to be total garbage, but let's actually see what the content says. So it says, Solo should have been Obi Wan's Star Wars story. Thank you. Yes. The film that most Star Wars fans would have said, if you were to give them a bunch of options, out of especially the original trilogy characters. Let's say you gave them Boba Fett, Han Solo, and Obi Wan Kenobi. Most people likely would have said, I would love to see an Obi Wan Kenobi film. Whether it was an Origins film or whether it was a film after his time after Revenge of the Sith, either way, I think that would have easily been something to pique the interest of most hardcore fans. And obviously, you can see it already that most people, especially the people who are part of the fandom menace, would love, at this point, obviously with Kathleen Kennedy and all those other things being taken care of, but would love to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi solo standalone film with Ewan McGregor, because he is a fantastic actor. He did a great job as Ben Kenobi. He is the one that we see as Kenobi now, and he's also young enough still to be able to play that character, both him after Revenge of the Sith and also even an origin story even before then too, before he got picked up. I mean, even though he's a little bit older now, you could still make it work. If they're able to make Michael Douglas and Ant-Man look like he's in his 30s, early 40s, they could probably do a lot of really cool things with his character, but I digress. Let's dive into the actual article itself. I mean, just look at that man. That is a beautiful man right there. I have no problem saying that, and that is the person that I would love to see on the next standalone project. And in fact, I would love to see this guy get his own trilogy. An Obi-Wan trilogy? Oh my goodness. That would be something I would pay money for. Again, if Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson and all the other knuckleheads over at Lucasfilm are out. Alright, as he says, I've discussed already at length why Solo Star Wars story was an awful idea, albeit with surprisingly good execution. Even I will say that much. Was the movie good? No. Was the movie garbage tier? No. It was a C-level film. It was fine. But it didn't do well because of why? The Last Jedi. Those are the facts of the case. So overall, not off to a bad start. Few Star Wars fans were kept up at night wondering how Han got his vest, where his last name came from, and fewer still were interested in the iconic character being played by a man known as not Harrison Ford. That'd be like Gandalf minus Ian McKellen. Exactly right. This is the guy who, he might be a fine actor, he's just not Han Solo. He's not Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford is the iconic Han Solo, and this guy just did not pull it off. He was a very green actor to begin with. He had to be given coaching on set, and obviously it was not enough. Were there glimpses of Han Solo in his character? Sure, but glimpses do not make up for the rest of the 2-hour-plus runtime of a film that just overall disappointed for the rest of that time. Solo might have been single-handedly killed the Star Wars spin-off, possibly, but there was one film rumored to be in the making that Disney really should have developed instead of the doomed Fordless Han Solo prequel. I would agree, and I would also say that no, I think that it pretty much has killed off the Solo projects for now. Again, we've already had the media reports that all other future projects have been put on hold. I still believe that to be the case. Here is, if Disney was smart, if the people running Lucasfilm were smart, here's the game plan. We focus on 9. We try and make it great. In fact, if we have to split it into 2 because we need a retcon and fix the mess that was The Last Jedi, let us go ahead and do so. I know there are plenty of people who are part of the Phantom Menace who do not agree with that, who do not agree with my assessment, who do not think we need to split it up into 2. I think that's the only way that you can logically fix 8 and still also be able to present a good story in episode 10. That would be how I would do it personally. But let's say you actually are able to do that. Let's say that you're actually able to get that taken care of. You market it very well. Guess what? 9 is automatically going to be a financial loss. I already broke down the numbers. When there is a bad film in a franchise, the next film usually is the one that gets the effect. Because let's say there's a good film. So let's say, for example, Force Awakens did pretty well. Again, Force Awakens did pretty well, but did not make everybody happy. There were still some people that were not quite happy. And guess what? It went from $2 billion to $1.3 billion. Makes sense. Pretty large drop, but still significant nonetheless. Let me go down. Then we actually look at that number, $1.3 billion. Why did that number not go any higher? Well, one, some of it was because of The Force Awakens not being very strong. But you cannot tell me that $700 million worth did not want to go see that film for that reason. No, the reason why is because you had a 60% drop between week 1 and week 2. The reason why is because that film, The Last Jedi, made almost 70% of its entire profit in those 2 weeks alone. Why? Because the word of mouth was terrible. Because the film was terrible. Fast forward, what's the next film in the franchise? Solo. Dismal numbers, loses $200 million at the box office, will not even break $400 million. So we see a train of events there. We see that that is how the films usually go. So let's keep that in mind. Let's keep that same process, that same thought process in there. Because some people will say, well, you kind of have to separate the two films. You cannot have an episodic film be in the same scenario or be in the same category as the solo project films. And that might be true, but let's say that we do that. All right, let's do that. $1.3 billion. A terrible film. A film that has been derided by thousands of people. So much so that it affected The Last Jedi, or rather so bad that it affected Solo, which lost significant amount of money. So let's keep that same mindset. That means that Episode 9 is gonna be sub $1 billion. Might even be close to $500–600 million if they don't do things right. Honestly, I think it's going to be between 650 and 850 million. That is just me. That's just my assessment. It's definitely going to be under $1 billion. Episode 9 is already bound to take a loss for those reasons. But what does that allow for? It allows for you to fix the episodes of 8, make an interesting story that leads to Episode 10, leads to people wanting to go see what happens next, building that anticipation for the final film, because guess what? That's another thing Last Jedi does not do. It does not build anticipation. At this point, I could care less what happens in Episode 9, unless what they're doing in Episode 9 is fixing the issues of 8. So if that's the case then, and if Episode 9 is good and does those things, guess what that means? Episode 10 can knock it out of the park. But that's just me. Once that happens, that's when you can start to announce future project. You can talk about a Ben Kenobi film. You can talk about, even hell, you can bring up your Boba Fett film, because guess what? You will be in a better financial situation to actually do so. All right, so let's see what else he has to say. Obi Wan Kenobi is a character that could have easily carried a Star Wars story to box office success, I agree, given the character's popularity in the prequel animations. But Ewan McGregor recently stated that there are no plans for an Obi Wan prequel movie as far as he knows, but that he would be happy to do it. So again, we already have somebody who is interested in the project. We already have somebody who would love to be a part of this universe. We already have somebody that would love to come back to play that character. That is already so much work that does not need to be done to try and convince somebody to come back. He is there. And unfortunately now, because these things aren't being talked about, or maybe he's playing it close to the chest, now he's saying that he's getting annoyed by the idea. He's getting annoyed that people keep asking him about it. Either he's playing a very good game and he knows that there are some plans in the works, or he honestly has not been told anything, and now Lucasfilm is putting that actor in a situation where eventually, if a film might open up, maybe he won't be as interested in it anymore. But again, that just adds to the lack of forward-thinking knowledge that Kathleen Kennedy and all the people running Lucasfilm have right now. There have been no new announcements regarding more spin-offs, but it's likely that Disney isn't going to risk another box office bomb after the disastrous Solo. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the first article I've read from Forbes that has actually used the correct language. It was disastrous. $200 million+ loss on that film alone. The tragic thing is, there was every reason to create an Obi-Wan film instead, if only they would listen to fans. Oh, do I agree, and do so many agree. Even now, even after Solo, there are a lot of people who still want an Obi-Wan film. The problem is, as you're saying, they're not listening to the fans. They have not been listening to the fans for a very long time. The Force Awakens had potential. It was weak, but it had potential. Episode 8 just said, you know what, we don't give a damn what the fans think. We're just going to go in our own direction. We don't give a damn about what happens in the long run. And guess what? Now they're losing money. And they're going to continue to lose money if they keep going in that direction. They need to make a change. So, here are 3 reasons why Solo should really have been Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is from Forbes. Let's go through this really quick. Ewan McGregor, absolutely. If you're going to talk about a box office draw, who do you go to? Alden Ehrenreich, who has pretty much no film background, has no presence, is not a household name by any means, or Ewan McGregor, who has been in some of the biggest films, including the Star Wars prequels. Already a no-brainer. You can already sell the film by his name, by notoriety alone, and you can bring more people into the seats. If you can imagine, even if all this stuff had happened, even if this film, even if Obi Wan Kenobi was coming after The Last Jedi, it still would have made a profit because of Ewan McGregor's name alone. Now, I think it still would not have made as much as it should have because of The Last Jedi, but I don't think anyone's going to deny that he would have brought in a few more $1 million because of his name alone, for sure. The third one, no origin story, just story. That's another very good point. The prequels were torn to shreds by fans and critics years ago, regarded as an unfortunate stain in the Star Wars filmography. But the concept, world building, and time period that Lucas envisioned during those 3 dreadful films were rock solid. It was the delivery that was terrible, and most people will say that. Even I will say that. I did not like the prequels. I still do not defend the prequels, but I do defend the characters that came out of it. For the most part, I do also defend the world that was built in that time period. I think it was interesting, and also, most importantly, it was a cohesive unit. Episode 1 to 2 to 3 made sense narratively. They all connected to each other. They all had arcs that went somewhere, that connected. Guess what does not have that right now? The current Star Wars trilogy. Because Force Awakens set up a lot of really cool things. Episode 8 just said, nah, we're just going to screw that, and then we're going to leave Episode 9 with nothing to look forward to. So when people watch this trilogy, unless they turn it into a 4-parter, and unless they take away and retcon parts of number 8, they're going to have an extremely disjointed trilogy, and it's not going to make any sense. And guess what? No one's going to want to buy it. No one's going to want to buy it. So absolutely, to focus on this too is important. Again, to focus on this. But the concept of world building was so important. The animated series The Clone Wars took everything great about the prequels and delivered a fantastic story revolving around the titular Clone Wars that the films skipped over for some reason, exploring the relationship between General Skywalker and General Kenobi before it turned permanently sour. The timeline of that series ends sometime before Revenge of the Sith, leaving a bit of space between that film and A New Hope, which was the window that the Obi Wan spinoff was rumored to take place in before Solo bombed and radio silence hit. There is so much material that could be drawn out from that period of time, and none of it would be that explanatory. This is what he's like. This is why he's like that nonsense that burdens traditional origin stories. Solo was admittedly pretty darn good. I wouldn't say pretty darn good. I'd say it was decent at best, but the film was guilty of providing an abundance of unwanted explanations. Some of the worst being the name Solo. Oh, you don't have a last name? Well, Han Solo. So stupid. Every time. Every single time. So instead of doing that, instead of focusing on the origins of a character, which again, I will say this much, if you would have made an Obi-Wan Origins film, I guarantee you that probably would have made a hell of a lot more money than Solo did, because that is significantly more interesting, seeing that we don't really know a whole lot about Obi-Wan's beginnings, except from what we get in the prequels. Just saying it. Just saying, he's a much more interesting character. And the third point he says, the prequel trilogy has never been more popular. I agree. It's so sad and so interesting that The Last Jedi was so bad that now the prequels look like gold to so many people. Even I have so much more respect for the prequels than I did before The Last Jedi. That should tell you a lot, because I'm a very big critic of the prequels, and yet I'm excited. And guess what? I'm now getting into Clone Wars, and the Clone Wars show too is making the prequels more bearable, because it's helping to develop the characters more, it's bringing more personality, it's bringing more story arcs, and it's great. It's fantastic. So there is a route, there is a direction that Lucasfilm can go. The problem, or rather the question that needs to be asked is, are they going to do it? Are they going to take the steps that are necessary? Are they going to get rid of the dead weight? Are they going to get rid of a producer who has no idea what she's doing, who does not know how to be forward-thinking? That's the biggest question. So many people think that in about a month or so, we're gonna get an announcement of her being of Kathleen Kennedy stepping down or retiring. That might happen. It might not happen. Are they willing, though, to take the steps that they need to in order to get this franchise back on track? Because if they don't do it, if they do not step back on track, if they do not get things going the way that they need to, if they do not get a forward-thinking plan set in place, we're going to have some major issues. Star Wars as we know it, as a lot of people in my comments have been saying, might truly be dead at that point, might not be able to recover. But it has to start now. It has to start with Episode 9. If Episode 9 just decides to pick up with 8, treat everything in 8 as canon, treat everything like it's totally fine, and ride that story in 1 or 2 films, good luck trying to revive the franchise. Anyway, guys, what's y'all thoughts on this? Do you also agree that they should have made an Obi Wan film, that they should still make an Obi Wan film? I would even say I would love an Obi Wan origin story. I think that could be really cool. I would love an Obi Wan film between episodes 3 and 4. I think that would be phenomenal. I think that would be fantastic. That would have me so damn excited. What are y'all's thoughts? I would love to hear them below. But also, too, please let me know, what are some other topics, or what are some other movies, news-wise, that you might want me to look into? I love covering Star Wars news, but I also want to know, the people who watch my videos, why do you watch them? Do you watch them for the Star Wars coverage, or is there maybe something else that you would like me to cover too? Please let me know in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Y'all are awesome. Y'all are amazing. Live streams are coming back this weekend. Cannot wait to get back to it. I miss y'all. I love y'all so much. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.